Hey, good morning everybody. Welcome back to the shop, Robert Made It Workshop. Today I'm going to be working on doing a couple of Union Jack end grain cutting boards. I'm intending on making this a quick video, as quick as I possibly can. Apparently I'm prone to making long videos. So I didn't bother showing you how I got to the stage I'm at. You can watch other videos to see how I get there. But where I'm at is that I've already got my first stage boards made up, and that's a couple of first stage boards in the African Red Padauk, a couple of first stage boards in the Hard Rock White Maple, as well as a couple of first stage boards in the Black Walnut, which has actually already been put through the thickness planer. They're already nice and smooth, ready to hit the table saw. So next, I'm going to run the Padauk and the Maple through the thickness planer, get those nice and smooth, and then we'll move on to the table saw and start cutting those down into strips. So let's take it to the next stage. Have a coffee. Okay, let's see, what have I done? I took the three first stage boards and put them through the thickness planer there. They're nice and smooth. Put them on the table saw. I've cut them all up, all three species. I've cut up into 1 5/8 inch strips because the board was long this way. So I cut them every 1 5/8 and now flip them up like this. This is now the end grain surface, which I'll take back to the table saw. Actually, prior to going to the table saw, I don't know if you can see on camera, but when they're long like this and you run them and cut them every 1 5/8, you get a lot of burring and splinters on the side. I like to run them through the drum sander just to get them nice and smooth, and then cut them on the table saw. So flip them up like this, and now I'll cut strips into different thicknesses like this that I'll glue together for the second stage boards for the Union Jack flag. The second stage boards, when these go together, you'll see will actually make the four corners of the Union Jack board. So that's the next stage, and I'm going to jump on to that right now. Okay, so now I've got two boards like this. Each board will get two corners out of it, and so I'm going to glue these up. Okay, so I finished taking them out of the clamps, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to run the boards with the corner designs in them, as well as the solid Padauk boards through the thickness planer, get them down to the same thickness, and after I do that comes the tricky part, and I do mean tricky. There is no margin for error here. In fact, this next step, after I get these down to the same thickness, is exactly why I say these boards, the Union Jack end grain boards, are the most difficult boards of all the designs I make. I find these to be the most difficult and the most unforgiving. So you'll see that step here in a second. But right now, we'll get these down to the same thickness on the thickness plane. Alright, this next step is actually only half of the most trickiest part. Having templates to do these will certainly make things a lot easier. So I have a couple that I keep on hand. Okay, I originally used a digital angle level to find my precise angle, and then once I had that, I made some templates, and it makes life a lot easier. Now, I mentioned this is the most critical part. Critical because this angle here has to be precisely 26.6 degrees. I'd actually watched another video on the internet of a guy making these, and to give credit where credit due, I actually did the templates because that's what he suggested. Prior to that, I had been making them every time individually with the digital level. But by all means, the templates do make it a lot easier, a lot quicker than fussing around on this. So, but when you're talking 26.6 degrees, that's not 26.7, it's not 26.5. And for things to line up properly in the board, you need to make sure they are precisely that. And if you don't, and you make a board, most people won't notice. But if you get somebody from England come up, they'll spot that a mile away. I'll guarantee it. That's what happened with my first one. So nobody else noticed it, but somebody from England thought, hey, you know what, something looks a little bit off on that. And so it doesn't take much. If you're off by 1 degree, it'll show up in the board where if somebody is very familiar with the Union Jack flag, they're going to notice it. So, and you don't want that. Trust me, I was very embarrassed. So that was the first and only time that happened. So now I'm going to lay out the angles. Another thing you want to do here is if you don't have a picture of the Union Jack flag, get one. Because the Union Jack flag is made so that it looks the same upside down as it does right side up. So when you're doing them, you want to make sure in which corner you have the thick white line on the top and in which corner you have the thick white line on the bottom. Because if not, you'll have built the flag upside down. And I've never done that, but that would be very embarrassing. So now I'm going to lay this out. Hey everybody. Okay, time for me to start talking again. We've got them out of the clamp, so we've got the first piece of maple glued on. We now need to cut this edge nice and clean, glue on another piece of maple. we'll glue on some Paduke, another piece of maple, and then another corner. So that's what we're at today. Now, I've mentioned that this is one of the hardest boards of all the boards I make. This one the most difficult to make. In fact, it's not one of the most difficult boards to make. It is by far the most difficult board to make. And what's so difficult about it is actually getting it to this stage here. When you do your initial board glue up, you know, and it's you trace out your squares here, which are your corners, and they're on diagonal to the way your board is running. Cutting these out so that you have a nice, accurate cut on the sides, because the location of where these different colors line up is absolute critical. So to cut these right on the line and have a nice clean cut that's going to glue up seamlessly with the next piece is very difficult to do, because you can't overcut them and just run them through the belt sander, or the drum sander rather, or the thickness planer. They're just too short to go through. So your cut has to be perfect. And how do you do that? It's tricky. It's actually what I keeping as a trade secret. I don't share it on video how I do it. I will say that all the drawings and measured plans to all the different designs I make that you see in video, that you see on my website, are available through my website. And if you order plans, I do share my trade secrets on how I cut these and prepare the edge, so during the next stage glue up that they're seamless, because you really don't want to see a seam or be able to feel a seam with your fingernail. That's not quality in my books. But so that's where we're at right now. I've got the maple all prepared. It's been to exact size. The Paduke is overcut by about 1.5 millimeters, so I'm going to fine tune this now in the drum sander and then take it to the next stage glue up. So that's what I'm getting at right now. Fly.
Join the Acquired Brain Injury Awareness Walk. You can register as an individual or as a team. Pledges support people in our community living with acquired brain injuries. To ND.com. Join the 15th Annual Belleville Dragon Boat Festival Saturday, July 9th. Register your